Word of God deserves all the respect, and that's why I encourage you to look at my playlist where I've read it word for word to the best of my ability. But we're going to do a recap so that we're all on the same page. I'm going to do chapter 18 of Genesis through chapter 21 of Genesis. Okay. Genesis chapter 18, the Lord appears to Abraham, and then Abraham looks up, and three men are standing there. So Abraham runs over to the three men and bows his face to the ground, and he's like, Lord, let me get some water so that I can have your feet washed. Let me get this meal prepared for you so that you can eat and go about your way. That's what he's saying to these three men, right? And they said, okay, do as you have said. So Abraham gets everything that he needs, and he prepares the meal for them. And they sit under the tree, and they eat. And Abraham stood there, and they start talking to Abraham. They're like, Abraham, where's your wife Sarah? And he's like, over there. She's not right there, but she's behind them. And so she can hear everything that they say, and she eavesdropping a little bit. And so he was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to come back in the appointed time, and Sarah's going to have a son for you. And it says in chapter 18, verse 11, it says that, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. That means Sarah no longer had a period. And Sarah's taking all this into consideration, and she's laughing in her head. Like, yeah, right. And so the three men are like, why, Abraham, did Sarah laugh? Is there anything too hard for God? And then in verse 15 of chapter 18, Sarah lies and denies that she even laughed, right? Okay, so, but we all know that she laughed, and they say, yes, you did laugh, but you did. So they got finished talking with Abraham. Abraham got up and walked them towards their area that they were going, which they were going towards Sodom. Chapter 18, verse 20, we see the Lord talking about how the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great because their sin is very grievous. So the three men get up and they go towards Sodom and Gomorrah, but Abraham stays there talking with the Lord. And Abraham starts at 50. He's like, Lord, what if there's 50 righteous people in Sodom? Are you going to really destroy the whole entire city if it's still 50 righteous people in that city? And the Lord is like, I won't do it if it's 50 righteous people in that city. I will not destroy it. And then Abraham continues to plead with the Lord, and it's got to be very scary because he's like, Lord, I don't want to make you angry, but what if it's 45? And then he goes, well, what if it's 40? Well, then, okay, wait, well, what if it's 30? What if it's 20? Abraham gets all the way to 10 people, and the Lord is still like, I will not destroy Sodom if it's 10 righteous people in that city. And then they get up and they leave, they part their ways. Abraham is like, thank you, Lord. Conversation's over. But that was intense in my opinion, because it's like, ooh, pre-adventure, Lord. Pre-adventure, there's only this. I'm sorry to keep asking you the same thing, Lord, but what if it's only this amount? Will you please save it? Like, that was Abraham's conversation with the Lord. It was beautiful to me. In Genesis chapter 19, two angels came to Sodom, and Lot was at the gate of Sodom. So Lot saw them, he ran to them. He did the exact same thing that Abraham had just did in chapter 18. He bowed his face, and he told them, look, Lord, please come into my house. Stay all night, wash your feet, and eat good in my house. And they were like, no, we're going to abide in the streets all night. And Lot was like, no. He begged them, and then they agreed to come into Lot's house. So Lot makes a meal for the two angels of the Lord. And before they get in to lay down to go to sleep, the men and the little boys of Sodom have compassed around Lot's house. They've surrounded Lot's house, and they knock and saying, Lot, we're them two men that came into your house earlier today. Bring them out so that we may know them. Know means Sodom, them. Know them, okay? And Lot comes out of his house, and he closes the door behind him. And he's like, do not so wickedly. No, you're not going to have these two men. I have two daughters in here that you can do whatever is good in your eyes to them. They have never known a man. And they like, wait, you ain't nobody's judge. Now we're going to do unto you even more savagely than we was even going to do to them, okay? So they started like trying to break the door down, like they being ridiculous. And so the two angels that are inside, they pull Lot in, and then they blind the men that are outside the door, so the men can't even find the door no more. So the angels of the Lord tell Lot to warn his family that they're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot goes to his son-in-laws and he tells them, and they think he's mocking. They think he's playing. So the next morning when it's time for everybody to wake up, the angels is like, all right, we'll get your two daughters and your wife. And when we destroy it, don't even look behind you. So the angels of the Lord tell Lot to go to the mountains in verse 17. And Lot's like, Lord, please let us just go to Zoar. So the Lord's like, okay, go to Zoar. So they go to Zoar, and when the sun rises on Zoar early in the morning, the Lord destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, but unfortunately Lot's wife looks behind her, as she was instructed not to do, and she turns to a pillar of salt. So now there's only Lot and his two daughters in Zoar. They leave about a Zoar in verse 30, and they go to the mountains, exactly where the angels told them to go in verse 17. But they go to the mountains, and they dwell in a cave, Lot and his two daughters. So Lot and his two daughters were living in the cave by themselves, and the older daughter was like, there's nobody here to get us pregnant, and our dad's getting old, and our bloodline will die out, so we have to get our father drunk on wine and get pregnant by our father to continue the bloodline, and then the next night we will get him drunk again, and he will sleep with the younger daughter, and he will get her pregnant also. And that's exactly what they did. Genesis chapter 20. Abraham and Sarah are journeying, and they end up staying in Gerar, between Kadesh and Shur. And the king of Gerar sees Sarah, and Abraham tells the king Abimelech, his name is Abimelech, the king of Gerar. He tells Abimelech, Sarah is my sister. Sarah tells Abimelech, Abraham is my brother. So Abimelech takes Sarah into his house, but he didn't touch her. So Abimelech goes to sleep, and the Lord comes to Abimelech, and he says, you are but surely a dead man, for the woman that you have in your house is somebody's wife, and it's a prophet's wife. And Abimelech's like, Lord, I did not know, because this man said that that was his sister, and she said that that was her brother. And so the Lord was like, I know you did not do this, but in the innocency of your hands and in the integrity of your heart, but give that man his wife back, restore his wife to him, for if not, you and everybody that is yours is going to die. And so he woke up in the morning, and he told his servants everything that happened. And he came to Abraham. He was like, why would you do this? Why did you say this? And Abraham was like, because I just figured the Lord is definitely not in this place. And so Abimelech restored Sarah to Abraham, and also gave him sheep and ox and manservants and women servants. And he told Abraham, this is my land, dwell where you please. And that's where Abraham was dwelling. And Abraham prayed over Abimelech in his house, because the Lord had closed up everybody's womb, because Sarah was in Abimelech's house. So that's Genesis chapter 20. In Genesis chapter 21, the Lord visited Sarah and gave her a son. They named the son Isaac. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. So now Abraham has Isaac with Sarah and Ishmael with Hagar. Hagar is Sarah's slave. So 8 days into Isaac's birth, they circumcised Isaac just like the covenant told Abraham to do. Then when Isaac was weaned, Abraham threw a big feast for Isaac. Now Sarah says that she saw Ishmael, Hagar's son, mocking Isaac, laughing. I don't know what mocking exactly means, but I think it's laughing. And so that's when Sarah says, this son will not be heir with my son Isaac. So you need to get rid of this bondwoman and her son. And Abraham was really sad about what Sarah wanted, him to do, get rid of his son. God told Abraham to listen to what his wife Sarah had told him to do, and send his bondwoman Hagar and his son Ishmael away. And there would still be a nation that comes out of Ishmael, because he's the seed of Abraham. So Abraham wakes up, and he gets water and bread, and he gives it to Hagar, and he sends Hagar and his son Ishmael away. Now remember, Ishmael had already got circumcised at the age of 13. So we don't really know what age Ishmael is, but they're going into the wilderness of Beersheba. In verse 15, Hagar and Ishmael ran out of water. And so Hagar put Ishmael over here, she over here, because she said, I don't want to see the lad die. But the Lord heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of the Lord talked to Hagar. He's like, what aileth thee, Hagar? Ishmael is going to be a great nation. Take him, hold him up. And then the Lord opened the eyes of Hagar, and she saw a great well. And so she filled up the bottle of water with water, and she gave the lad drink. And so Ishmael's fine now. And so he grew up in the wilderness of Paran, and Hagar took a wife for Ishmael out of Egypt, and he became a great nation, and he became an archer. So Abimelech, the king of Gerar, and his chief captain Phicol came to Abraham, and they were like, we see that the Lord is with you in everything that you do. So swear to us that you won't do falsely with our sons or our sons' sons, but do kind unto us as we have done unto you, right? And Abraham's like, I swear. And then Abraham reproved Abimelech because of his servants that had taken a well violently. And Abimelech was like, I didn't know nothing about it until you telling me right now. So Abraham gave Abimelech sheep and ox, and they made a covenant. And then Abraham set 7 ewe lambs to the side. And Abimelech was like, what are these for? And Abraham was like, I'm giving you these 7 ewe lambs into your hands, and it's my witness that I have dug this well. They called the well Beersheba, and they made a covenant right there. They swear by it. And then Abraham and Abimelech and Phicol went their own way, and Abraham continued to dwell in the land of the Philistines.